Black Friday weekend. It's been popping off here. Super excited to be doing this with you guys. If you are tuning in, welcome. And if you're watching the replay, also welcome. It's not expected to be some huge event, although I do see some people popping in with us. So I'm thankful for that. What we're going to be doing today on this one is answering your questions. So if you have anything in the immediate moment that you would like answered, please drop a comment and we will make sure to answer it live. Otherwise, I have a relatively short and straightforward list of things that we'll be going through today to explain some of the most common concerns and questions that come up with the FDN course. There are also other resources that you can utilize this weekend. I do believe that we still have some space available to book a call with us if you would choose to do that. So I'm going to pull up that link right now, actually, as I'm speaking, if you don't mind, and then we will get right into the questions. And again, if you are tuning in live and you ask a question, your question will be prioritized. Otherwise, I will just go through our done for you list here. And so here is the link. And then I will add something in my captions here. All right, here we go. Cool. All right, so I have that below. You can use that link at any time. First question that we are going to be talking about today is, who is FDN for? It's kind of a pretty good question to have the answer to, right, if you're looking into the program. And we'll talk about the sale next. That probably should have been question number one, right? So who is FDN for? Well, we attract a large variety of people. It's not for any one type of profession or any one type of prerequisite or set of prerequisites. What brings people to FDN almost universally is they've been through health challenges. More specifically, they've been through health challenges that Western medicine and even oftentimes natural and functional medicine could not solve. And so then they found something like this so that they can kind of become their own health detective, right? They can put that hat on and start looking into things themselves. So as someone, I actually do the podcast for us, and as someone who gets to do the podcast for us, I've interviewed well over 200 people about their health stories and what they've been through. And what I have found through interviewing these people is that we have engineers, we have teachers, we have accountants, we have people that have been first responders, right? Police officers, firefighters. We've had everything that you can possibly imagine. But what they all have in common is they dealt with various health issues. Maybe it was autoimmunity. You'll hear cancer sometimes. You'll hear gut issues, skin issues, any chronic thing that you could possibly imagine we've heard of at this point. Although I'm constantly amazed by how many conditions there are out there, how many different ways that we could slap a label on, really just a sick body. So I'll won't get into that today. But we probably haven't touched on every condition, but we've touched on a darn lot. And that's really the common theme of what brings people in here. It's people that have been through their own health challenges. So then Reed Davis, the founder of FDN, always says there's two requirements after that. These are the prerequisites of sorts. You need to be able to walk the walk. You have to actually want to go live this lifestyle. That does not mean we are sinless. It does not mean I never cheat on my diet. It doesn't mean that I ever don't make a mistake on something that I'm doing. It doesn't mean that I don't ever stay up later than I should have. But it means that more often than not, I am trying to do this lifestyle. I am actively getting better. I'm getting more healthier than I'm getting unhealthy, right? You know what I tried to say with that. I'm getting healthier rather than getting unhealthier. So that's what you got to do. If you're willing to walk the walk with us and actually do this, and you're willing to help other people, well, then we can help you. It doesn't mean that FDN's easy. Reed always equates it to maybe, in terms of density of content, maybe like the equivalent of a master's level degree. It's not going to take you the amount of time of a master's level degree. And that's for America, right? I assume it's something different, I would imagine, other places around the world. So kind of after that bachelor's degree, that 4-year degree that most people might get, that next level, that's kind of where we're sitting at in terms of difficulty, except it's not 2 years worth of stuff. It's about 8 to 9 months worth of stuff. So most people can do this, but you have to have the will and you have to want to go help other people. You got to want to do this as work. Ideally, that's who we are looking for. Now, with that said, we should also answer the question. Oh, cool. Actually, I already have another question here. How much time do we have to finish the program? And can we start later, like in April or March? Good question, Karen. So the course on average takes about 8 to 9 months. You do have 12 months to complete it. Now, with that said, personally, I would not recommend waiting until March or April to do this, but you can also do the math, right? If you know that in March or April, you're going to have, let's say, 10 hours a week, that'd be a really solid amount to have to dedicate towards this course. So roughly an hour and a half per day. If you knew 100% that you were going to have that come March and come April, you might then actually benefit from still buying the course this weekend. And the reason that I say that leads into my next question that I was going to answer. What the heck's the sale? What are we doing? So we are breaking the record for the biggest sale that we've ever done in 14 years of operating as a course. We're doing $1,250 off the course if you pay in full, and you still get all the other bonuses that come with that. So there's about an additional $800 worth of bonuses that come from paying in full anyway. And then if you do any of the payment plans, we still have something big for all of those people, and it's $1,000 off. Even our 24-month payment plan has $1,000 off right now. So the reason that I'm mentioning that to this question that Karen asked is because you kind of have to do the math. If you take more than 12 months to do the course, you can get an extension fee. It's like $250 for 3 months, right? So my point in saying that is, if you knew that you were going to take maybe roughly an extra 3 months to get started on the course, and you can get $1,000 or $1,250 off now to spend $250 on the back end, obviously it makes sense still to get the sale this weekend. So that's something that only you can decide. I'd personally probably be leaning more towards the side of steering away from buying the course right now. If I knew I couldn't start till April, that's kind of far ways away. But if you knew that maybe even you could chip away 20, 30 minutes every couple days starting now, and then do the main stuff in March or April, then I could recommend that. I would feel good about that. So great question. How come functional medicine doesn't seem to be regulated at all? Do you expect regulation in the future? Well, functional medicine would be regulated, right? It depends on how we're defining this. So I don't mean to, I'm not dismissing your question. It depends on how we're defining functional medicine, right? So if we're talking functional medicine is in terms of a functional medicine doctor that still can prescribe stuff, well, in that case, it'd very much be regulated. If we're talking about what we do as FDNs, I can't see that ever being an issue, and here is why. We are not diagnosing, treating, or prescribing. And this is never, I don't know how much you know about our course. And if you don't know anything, that's totally fine. I'm answering generally just in case someone doesn't know anything about us. Me saying that is not a cute little play on words where it's like, hey, we don't diagnose or treat, wink, wink. And then you get into the course and you find that out. No, we don't do that. I mean, one, outside of the fact that it's illegal, that's not even effective for what we're trying to do. And so think about this really quick. Most of the people, if you caught the beginning half of this, we've only been on for 7 minutes, right? The beginning part of this live, you notice that I said the core theme of the people that go through this course, everything that they have in common is that they have health issues. That's really what's going on here. And so with that said, they already got a diagnosis. I'll use me for an example. I had 7 different diagnosed conditions at the age of 18. I already had the diagnosis. I got treated for all of those things. Some of it worked, some of it didn't. Nothing cured it, right? It was just a treatment. So it usually was like it diminished the symptoms of the disease state. And then I probably had side effects added on. There was very few things that wasn't the case for. And again, nothing cured any of those 7 conditions. So these people have already been through the diagnosing and treating model. They don't want that. So what we do at FDN is we are utilizing the labs to educate the client on what is going wrong with their body. And we're clinically correlating it to their symptoms. And so that sounds like, okay, well, how is that different than diagnosing? Because diagnosing would be XYZ is too high, XYZ is too low. We have established as medicine that when something in this range is too high or something in this range is too low, you either have this disease or this disease. That's not what we're doing. What we would do, possibly even with the same markers, is say, okay, when this is too high, here are some of the causal factors, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, that can lead to that. And if we really thought it was super bad, and for God forbid they hadn't been to a doctor, which is extremely rare, I would say 1 out of 100 clients hasn't gone to a doctor before they come to someone like an FDN, then of course we could refer them out just to dot our I's and cross our T's. But otherwise, they probably already have the diagnosis, they have a prescription, and so they're still coming up with these high markers. So we're educating them on what they've done in their life, unintentionally probably, that has led to those results being off. And then we're showing them that based on the symptomology that they came to us with, we can clinically correlate the lab results with stuff that they deal with. A basic example of that would be hormone testing, right? If you had super high cortisol at night relative to the rest of the day, and one of your main complaints was, oh, well, I'm an insomniac. I can't sleep. I can't fall asleep. And once I fall asleep, I can't stay asleep. What we would be doing is not diagnosing high cortisol. It's not a diagnosis. What we're showing them is, hey, your cortisol, if you look at it relative to these other markers here, is very high. It's way higher than it should be at night. And you said one of the things that you're dealing with is you have a really hard time sleeping and staying asleep. Well, that correlates directly. If someone has super high cortisol at night, even if you have melatonin being produced or you're taking it as a supplement, that's going to prevent the person from getting good sleep. So we're showing them the things that might contribute to that. And again, I'm going super basic today just for the Q&A sake, right? But What could contribute to that? Fighting with a spouse every single night before bed, engaging in something like work on a blue lit screen without protection instead of reading under maybe like darker amber lights. I was looking because I usually have one of my amber lights near me, but something darker like that, more relaxing. There's a million things that could cause that cortisol spike before bed. So that's kind of the difference in what we're doing. And it's a long-winded way of saying that's why you can't really regulate that. This is educational lifestyle stuff. This is all done on the proper terms of service agreement. So my answer is no, I'm not concerned about it. I do it myself. And I will say this, if that did get regulated, I think we have very big problems going on. I'll put it that way. Someone said, can you tell me a little more about the medical director program and why it's so important to the program? Yeah, the medical director program is how we are able to legally and ethically facilitate lab orders through our doctors. So even myself, I'm not a licensed professional. I am someone who had a health coaching certification before this. I have a personal training certification before this. I don't have any formal degrees in anything related. Well, I don't have any formal degrees, period. But I don't have any formal degrees related to anything in terms of medicine or science. I've always been a pretty smart guy. I think that's a strong suit for me. I like learning, but I didn't have any credentials in this stuff. So I could either go to medical school and then have access to labs and pay, $100,000+ to go do that, and not to mention all the time involved. Or the FDN certification is structured in such a way that it's quite rigorous. It's not going to be the hardest thing you've ever done in your life, most likely, but it's not a walk in the park either. The other health coach certification that I got, and I won't mention the name because I actually liked them. I don't mean this as a diss towards them. I genuinely could have had my 12-year-old cousin do that content, right? It was click a few buttons, take a few quizzes, and all of a sudden you graduate and you have this certificate. But that's not really something that you're going to have the confidence with to allow someone to facilitate lab orders with your license on if you're a doctor, right? Now, that's a legal process, but you're still going to want to be careful if you're a doctor because all the risk is really on them. So the FDN certification program, it's rigorous. We're actually testing you. We're doing one-on-one mentorship. We're holding your hand to a degree to make sure that you really understand this content and what we're doing and what we're not doing. And so then you will get access to our team of doctors who will facilitate these lab orders for your clients. You are given all of the proper terms of service agreements and paperwork needed to sign your clients off and have them do this. So this is all by the book, 100% legal and ethical, which is great. And then not to mention, you get access to a bunch of fun labs. So that's always really cool. Once starting the program, is the trainee on their own, or would they have a community or other students they can connect with? Well, the community is probably one of the coolest parts about FDN, depending on who you ask. I'm a very social person, if you can't tell. I can just kind of talk effortlessly. Now, whether or not you want to listen is a different story, but I can definitely talk effortlessly. So the community aspect is super important to someone like me. From day one of joining the FDN course, you are already in the community. You get access to something called our trainee-only Facebook group. And so, as it implies, it's trainees only, but with in addition to the staff members, our clinical advisors, our mentors, the founder is even in there, Reed Davis. We don't just leave the trainees to run like chickens with their heads cut off. We're actually helping you guys, facilitating things and making sure that you're getting the support that you need. So when you jump into that from day one, you can start asking questions. There's no rule on how many questions that you can ask. You can use it the entire time that you're enrolled in the program, which is great. But then you have some more formal Q&A sessions and learning opportunities. Now, these are not required to graduate from the FDN course. I will say that again because someone always misinterprets what I'm saying here. The live calls in the training group are not required to go through the FDN course. They are not a part of the curriculum, but they are useful resources. So on Wednesdays, we have what are called Hot Topics with Elizabeth Gaines. And Elizabeth is our lead course mentor. She's also become like the most popular staff member at FDN, apparently even more so than Reed sometimes. People love her. They love her teaching style. She is so good and she's very smart. So she takes these high-level concepts and is able to break it down in such a way with these analogies that really stick with you. Even if maybe like learning and book smarts is not your strong suit, she can go up here and bring it down here for you so that you still get it in the amount that you need to get it to be able to graduate properly. So we have that on Wednesdays. And then on Fridays, still to this day, after 14 years, the founder of FDN, Reed Davis, hops on live with Elizabeth, and they do kind of a more I would call that like an open format Q&A. Elizabeth is usually working on a curriculum of some sort on Wednesdays. You can ask any question you like, but it's usually a curriculum. Whereas Friday is kind of like free for all. You can talk health coaching business, you can talk labs, you can talk whatever you might want to talk about, and that's totally fine. So those are 2 calls per week that we do. I'm sure we would add more in the future if we ever needed to, but right now we have it set up in such a way that the amount of people that hop on live and actually participate is just enough that everyone can get their questions answered. So that's the live support in the community on the front end. And then once you graduate, you have the option of joining AFDNP, which is our Association of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition Professionals. So that is an optional paid group. It's only $33 a month, but it is a paid group. And it has 1,000 members right now that choose to be a part of it. So we have well over 1,000 graduates. We have like 4,000 graduates of the FDN program, but 1,000 of them have chosen to stick with us in that group and be a part of an active community. So it's basically the trainee group on steroids. There is over 400 hours of archived content in there. So that's really cool. So you get additional learning in that sense. There's multiple live educational webinars every single week that are all recorded, so you can watch them at a different time. You can talk to clinical advisors in there. You can talk to other people who are doing this as work. It's a fantastic place to go and hang out. Do you have to pass your exam in order the business section? Before, yes, but actually technically now, no, you don't. So how we structured it now is the business school while doing the main FDN program, but not at the beginning. So basically, the first 2/3 of the FDN course is what you can call the self-study side. This is when you're going through the pre-recorded modules. You can go through as fast or as slow as you like, right? Maybe you want to do 3 hours a day because you're feeling crazy. You totally can do that. Maybe you only have 30 minutes a day or 30 minutes every other day. You can do that as well. Once you get through that 2/3, then you get to the practicals side. That's when the one-on-one mentorship starts. That's where the testing phases start. And so when that begins, or maybe it's the butt end of that, I think it's just when that begins, that's when you can start the business school. We recently made that change so that you could start doing that while you're working on your practicals. So in theory, no, you don't need to pass the exam to start doing the business side, but you would need to pass all the exams to have access to our medical director program, and obviously call yourself a graduated FDNP. Good question. Ryu said, good morning to all. Happy holidays. Good morning, Ryu. You're always hopping on. I love it. Even for our Q&A for Black Friday. That's amazing. So I think I got to talk about our Black Friday sale in the beginning. Yes, I did. I'll mention it once more before we continue with the Q&A here. So it is $1,250 off of the main FDN course if you pay in full, and it's $1,000 off if you do any of our payment plans. I also forgot to shout out our business school bundle. So if you add on business school, you will get our Instagram Reels course that was just created. So it's actually going to be out in a couple of weeks, from my understanding. It's not even technically out today. So very cool stuff there. And if you go to @FDN Training on Instagram, you will see our recent Reels, and they're actually doing pretty darn well. So we might know what we're talking about with that, apparently. But you'll get the Instagram Reels bonus course. And I always forget to mention this. It's so significant. The business school also comes with a tuition guarantee for FDN. So that means even the FDN main program and the business school combined, we have a tuition guarantee with that when you buy the business school up front. So what that looks like is if you go through the business school, you did what we asked, and you prove that you did what we asked. So we have a very clear checklist for you that you can go through. It's not a secret. It's not an I gotcha. It's very clear what you need to do. And you can show us that you did all that stuff. And then within 3 months of graduating from the business school, you did not earn your entire tuition back. We will actually work with you for up to 6 months, making sure that not only you got your investment back for the FDN course in business school, but hopefully you're doing a lot more than that, right? 6 months is a long time when you're working with someone who knows what they're doing and who's been there on the business side. So we're hoping to accelerate you to a point where you can actually just be going and doing this. You don't need us anymore for all that stuff unless you want to be involved in that way. But yeah, that's our guarantee. So you technically have nothing to worry about anymore when you're doing FDN and the business school combined. Questions. Can you start working in the field before passing the exam? I mean, it's a good question. People have asked this before. There's nothing that stops you from working as, let's say, a health coach and going out and helping people and showing them some of the things that you learned in the FDN program. The real restrictions that you would have is you could not call yourself a graduated functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. You could say you're an FDN in training. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And you would not have access to the labs and thus our clinical advisors. So there's nothing that stops you, though, from working in the field. It's not like this is a license or a PhD or a doctorate, right? Where you have like legal things behind your credentials. You could go out and start helping people however you want. So what I would probably recommend if you were going to consider that is getting through the parts of the course where we go over dress, and that'll make more sense in the course, but that's our lifestyle side. You could help literally hundreds of millions of people in today's world with just the dress stuff alone and without ever touching a single lab. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. Let me go back to our sheet here because the live Q&A is chilled out a little bit. What else we got? Okay, so really interesting one that people ask often is, why does FDN only teach 5 main labs in the course, and yet we have access to over 60 labs after graduating? And technically it's well over 60, but we'll keep it simple for today. The reason that we teach the 5 main labs in the course that we call our main labs is because this isn't just theory. This isn't something that was read about in a book and then we created a course on it. Reed Davis actually worked with over 10,000 people before ever teaching the concept of FDN to other people. And so when he went into this, he actually makes a joke out of it. He's the first to say, he's like, I had no idea what I was doing. He's like, I was a smart guy. I knew about nutrition and I knew I wanted to learn and help people, but I didn't know which labs were the right ones. So I started experimenting. And over time, I realized, okay, you know what? When you run this cluster of labs, you are going to find things that are wrong with chronically ill people. I have never had someone in 7 years of doing this myself that did the full FDN workup, and we looked at the labs and said, oh, you know what? No, everything's fine. Everything's perfect. You have all these symptoms. You're in a chronic disease state, but everything's perfect on the labs. No, that never happens. We always find stuff that is very useful for them and that can get them feeling 60, 70, sometimes even 80% better in a matter of months. The question that comes up after that is, well, wait a second. What about genetic testing? What about mold testing? What about this? You have access to it. Why don't we teach it in the main course? Here's why. If you don't get the foundations done, some of that stuff can work really well, and then other times it doesn't work at all. And most of the people that would even watch something like what I'm doing right now have probably been through this themselves. As much as I'd love to believe that FDN's the first place people come to, we already acknowledged today that's not the case. They went through Western medicine first, right? They got the diagnosis and they got the treatment. They probably went to another doctor to get a second, third, fourth opinion. And then they went to natural stuff. Then they tried things on their own with supplements or whatever it might be. And then they came to an FDN. I wish it was in reverse order, but that's what it is, right? Or I wish they actually just combined the first two, really. I wish you went to Western medicine and an FDN practitioner at the same time. That would be probably the best of both worlds, but that's not happening. And so my point in saying that is, you've experienced most likely firsthand what happens in the world of Western or natural medicine when we play with the sounds like method, as we call it. The sounds like method means someone comes in presenting certain symptoms, and you make a guess on what they're dealing with based on stereotypes of those symptoms. Now you run a specific test to validate your guess. You get the answer right. If you're lucky, you pat yourself on the back and you think that you're good to go. A classic example of this that Reed always brings up is thyroid. If I have, and probably many of you guys would already know this, if I have a middle-aged woman that comes in to my virtual office, hair's falling out, super fatigued, weight gain that doesn't make sense, like she's eating barely anything and she's still gaining or maintaining like large amounts of weight. She's got cold hands and feet, fatigue, like I said, just feeling like slow, like everything's slowing down. We would all say that sounds like what? Thyroid. And guess what? Those symptoms are commonly associated with thyroid. That makes sense. But there's a missing part here. And we know it's a missing part because you can see how many people just end up in the cycle that never ends in Western medicine. So it sounds like thyroid, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so in this case. We're going to run the thyroid panel if you're Western medicine. Oh, look, your TSH is messed up. Here's a medication. Here's Synthroid or whatever it might be. And now we'll try to get it back into range. And we all know that's a losing battle. You're going to make the person feel a little better within a few days at best, which is great. That's awesome. But that's not going to help them over the long term. And we all have seen that. So then natural medicine, what they do is, okay, all right, I hear all those symptoms. Yeah, it sounds like thyroid. And you know what? It sounds like you might have a gut bug too. I bet that's what it is. You have a gut bug. So I'm also going to run this gut test in addition to maybe some thyroid panel stuff. And then You look at the gut test. You either find something or didn't find something. You address that and you say, okay, you're good to go. That can't be how this works. I have seen that system fail people. I've seen it fail me. Even in natural medicine, I had this naturopathic doctor, and well, I definitely won't mention the name here. I actually like this person, super nice individual, but I was 21 years old coming into her office. I did not have a lot of money. I made about $500 a week back then before tax. Her sessions were $300 a session. And I'm going into her, trusting her, and she listened to all my symptoms and she thought that it was some gut bug that was leading to this. So she ran a test. The test cost me $300. So in addition to the sessions, the test cost me $300. Guess what happened? The thing that she thought it was didn't come back on the test. And you could say, well, that's not so bad, Ev, right? She invalidated the idea and you move to the next thing, right? Wrong. What she did next is give me a round of supplements to treat the gut bug that she thought was there, that we ran a test for, but it didn't show up. And if you're staying with me here and using common sense, the question would be, one, is that really the most effective method? That's one question. But two, if you were just going to give me the supplements anyway, no matter what came up on the test, and you know I have very limited funds, why the hell did you just make me spend $300 on the test? I didn't even need the test because it didn't come back with the results, and you still addressed it in the same way that you would have as if it came up positive on the test. That's the problem with the sounds like method. In many senses, the worst thing that could have happened is she was right, and it was a gut bug, and she treats the gut bug, and we know that's not the only issue for people. It's never going to be just a gut bug that's leading to their symptoms. So that is why we teach a core set of labs at FDN. We are doing the things that are guaranteed to help anyone. Will it help some people 50% in 3 months and others 100%? Yes, I have seen that all the time. It is a rare, I don't think I've ever actually seen someone in 7 years do the full FDN workup and not get at least 50% better after 3 months of working together. So that's pretty damn good. Otherwise, if you start playing sounds like method and like, all right, this person gets this test, this person gets that test, you get this test, you are going to be right or 100% right some of the time, and you are going to be 100% wrong some of the time. And now what happens to those people in that latter section, the people that you got 100% wrong with, you are going to be practitioner number 7 that they complain about and that they felt they got ripped off with. That's not who you want to be, right? So that is why we teach a core set of labs and give you access afterwards. We know this core set is a solid foundation that works with everyone, but the other tests are there in case we have to dot the I's and cross the T's and that person wants to go to the next level. So I hope that makes sense. Let me go back to the chat here and see what else we got. I am a licensed professional. Am I limited to my state or can I see people all over the world? Great question. So no, you would not be limited to your state, but here's why. When you are a licensed professional using the FDN program or the FDN medical director program, I will say. So we have nurses that go through the program all the time that do this. We have physician's assistants that go through the program all the time. We have doctors that go through the program too. A little more rare, but there's doctors in our program. What they have to do is you're wearing separate hats. Right. When you are wearing your license hat, you are able, probably depending on what license you have, to do some form of diagnosing and treating. That's not what we're doing at FDN. So you're quite literally wearing a different hat. It's not just like faking it back and forth. It's, hey, let's just use nurse because that's a common one for us. Hey, I'm not your nurse right now. I'm your FDN practitioner. FDNs don't diagnose or treat anything. So that's where we're able to utilize the medical director program. And by you not using your license, that's when you can do different states, different countries, because you're not operating under what you were trained to do in your license. You're operating what you were trained to do as an FDN practitioner. Now, if you started utilizing a lab in a different state and then you were diagnosing on that, yeah, that's out of scope. That's not okay. We're not teaching you to diagnose or treat anything here. So that's why it's all right to use our medical director program, put on your FDN hat and work accordingly in those separate states. So very common thing that happens here. Great question. All right. What else I got on my list? Oh, this is another good one. Why does FDN have advanced courses, health coach mastery, all this stuff? So nowadays, there's kind of like 3 separate sections of FDN courses. You have the main FDN course, which is most likely why you are here. That's where we teach about the functional lab testing. That's where we have the one-on-one mentorship. We have the medical director program afterwards. That is when you become a certified FDN practitioner. The health coach mastery program is newer this year. And it's more of a traditional health coaching course. So we're not really focusing on labs in there. We're focusing on literal coaching skills that you can use with a client to help guide them through a program. So sometimes this is necessary, sometimes it's not. Really, what it's for are the people who are seasoned practitioners and know that they need help on the coaching side and want to up their skills to better serve their clients. It's also for people who are looking for NBHWC board certification. So we are an approved program. Health Coach Mastery is through them, and we can help get you to that board cert if you are looking to do so. So I would say less than 10% of people that call me, at least, are interested in pursuing MBHWC. Most of them want to work with the labs. And so then you would be looking into the FDN program. Then the last thing, just to make it more confusing, right? What are all these advanced courses? Do I have to take those to become an FDN? I had someone ask recently, are all those advanced courses just little sections of the main FDN course? The answer is no to both. I almost wish our advanced courses were called intensives, because that's what they are. Advanced implies that you have to do this afterwards. It's something that you have to take this basic thing, right? Basic, and then do this advanced version. That's not the case. They're intensives. So they focus very specifically on one topic. There's no one-on-one mentorship. It's completely self-study, finish at your own pace, take 3 years to go through it if that's what it takes. Shouldn't take that, but gosh forbid you needed the 3 years. There you go, or you're just being lazy. I actually might have a course that I've been sitting on for 3 years myself, so I'm preaching to the choir here. That's what those are for. It's for very specific topics. You're going to dive deep into one thing over maybe as little as 4 hours or as much as 20 hours, depending on the advanced course that you're talking about. And it is different than what is taught in the main FDN course. I've been doing this for 7 years. I only have, I have 2 advanced courses technically. I haven't started the one. I was gifted it thankfully by from FDN. And then the other one, I'm like halfway through. I'm doing okay. I've never done any other advanced course and I'm doing just fine. You can add them all on and it would probably make you a better practitioner. That's for sure. So that is that one there. What else do I got? I think we actually, because you guys had a bunch of stuff in the chat, and so we got to cover a lot of the stuff here today. Last one that makes sense to answer is, can FDNs accept insurance? And the answer is no. If you're kind of an astute listener today, maybe you're in the field, you would know that we can't, because we're not diagnosing, treating. We're not doctors. We're not ordering labs for people ourselves. These are things that people are self-testing with. They are running the labs on themselves. Our doctors are just facilitating that order for them for convenience sake, getting it to them. They are running it on themselves. And so no, it's not covered by insurance. And thankfully, we teach you how to structure your programs in such a way that it makes it super reasonable for the client if they're dedicated to doing this. And then you could still get paid for your service and your work, because that's what you have to do. You got to get paid for your service and work. You can't pour from a cup that is empty, right? Pretty hard to do that. How do things differ between green, yellow, and red states? They don't. We're not operating in that scope, so it doesn't matter for FDNs. How do FDNs work with people in New York State? Good question. That does matter, because there are lab limitations even for self-testing. And you know what's so cool? I actually am very happy that the state of New York does this, and there's a couple of other states that have some little restrictions all surrounding New York, basically. I'm actually happy that they do this. And the reason that I'm happy that they do it is because in a time that we are all, unfortunately, so politically divided, we all can agree on this one. The state of New York should not have the right to tell you or me that in the comfort of my own home, I cannot poop in a box and ship it out. I can stop the feuds for politics right there. We will start with that issue if I was president, right? Can we acknowledge that I should be able to poop in a box on my own free will, and assuming it's packaged correctly, be able to ship it back out to a lab? I think that's something that we could all agree on, that we should have the right to be able to do. Unfortunately, New York State does not believe in that. And so that means we have to use certain labs in New York State. They don't restrict everything. Our medical director program actually has a filter built into it that you can click on New York State. And that's allowed us to have, I always say hundreds. I don't want to misspeak. I feel pretty confident in saying there's at least 100 FDN practitioners in the state of New York. They're all doing fine. I'm actually in Pennsylvania, and I'm in Southeast Pennsylvania. So if I start driving right now, I can be in Jersey in 5 minutes, and I can be in New York City in an hour and a half, assuming that there's no traffic. There's never no traffic. So it's more than an hour and a half. But I've worked with clients in New York State, and we've had no issues with stuff. There's some other issues with like blood draws in like a couple of other states around the country. Nothing too big. Mostly on the East Coast, like I said. Actually, I think almost exclusively on the East Coast. Good question there. Okay, last one, unless someone has something in the chat. Can you do FDN around the world? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have FDN practitioners that have graduated in 50 countries around the world. We have partnerships everywhere, so we are able to facilitate these lab orders for your clients, get them the labs that they need, and then you can do your work that you get to do as an FDN. So I see that we got 8 people tuned in. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope I was able to answer your questions. And if not, then you do have that call link below. This is where that you can book a call with myself or one of our other course enrollment advisors. We are available. I think most of us have something on our calendar still today, maybe not at this point. Sunday, we have availability, and then Monday, we are squeezing people in as well. We are going to, someone said, thank you. You are very welcome. Thank you for your questions. It makes me feel like someone's actually listening. I appreciate it. Monday, we have an Instagram live going down at 12:30 EST, and we will be doing a final Q&A there before the Black Friday sale is over. So make sure you get it. This is the biggest sale we've ever done. It's big enough that Reed got a little ticked off at us, and so I swear we will not be doing this one again. That is for sure. I can personally promise you that. I will put my name on that today. I hope you guys have a great and relaxing weekend. Let us know if you need anything, and we're excited to have you in the course. You're welcome, guys. Rita snuck in. I'm glad you snuck in, Rita. I know you have a year to complete. Is there a way to enroll today but delay your start? So we do not delay the start from when you buy. We have to make that a year for a variety of reasons. Now, Rita, here's some good news for this. So we do have extension fees. If you take longer than a year, you can extend it for like $250 for 3 months. And so the reason I'm saying that's good news is because depending on how far you wanted to start, let's say you were buying it this weekend so you could get the sale, and let's say you get the $1,000 off. Well, that means even if you have to extend it 3 months, you still saved, $750, $800, whatever it is. So you need to know for yourself, like, are you trying to start in summer of next year, or are you trying to start 3 months from now? If you're trying to start 3 months from now, I would definitely still get this and just do like 30 minutes here and there, right? FDN is really cool how it's designed. It's super self-paced. It's definitely designed in such a way that the videos are only like 20 to 30 minutes at a time. So you can sit down for 30 minutes. Even if you did that every other day, that would totally add up until you get to the point where you can really hammer it out. So while we can't delay the start time for you for the sale, there's workarounds like the one I just said. So thanks for the last second question. Appreciate getting that in. And again, I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Thank you so much.